So a couple of months back, I released an episode of Anime Abandoned that was without a script. And I made that episode during a time of duress when I was frantically trying to get an episode out and I didn't have a script for it, so I just went off by the seat of my pants. And the reception to that episode was actually pretty warm. And I took that as a sign that maybe, sometimes, depending on the anime, maybe I should do that more often. Now, don't get me twisted, I am still going to release episodes of Anime Abandoned with a proper script, with proper editing and such, but if I'm going to cover an anime that really doesn't deserve much more of a deep dive than, hey, isn't this stupid? Then I think going forward, I'm just going to talk about the anime in a very loose manner. Some anime just calls for it, you know?
I don't know how to break this to you, but we are not flying on a plane!
Shut up! You are a worthless little brat, aren't you? If this isn't a plane, then sending you to heaven is gonna take longer than I thought!
Kind of like today's episode, Master of Martial Arts, an anime that I've known about for over a decade now, just waiting patiently for my opportunity to talk about it here on Anime Abandoned. Of course, I wouldn't be talking about it without the proper nutrition, as it were. By the way, for the sake of transparency, right now as I'm recording this, it's a Sunday morning, and this is my first beer of the day.
Hello, everyone! Yes, Masters, Pine and Bamboo's most popular maiden singing idol is here just for you! All your dreams have come true!
Master of Martial Arts I came across on Netflix back in 2011, and it was during the infancy of Anime Abandoned where I was looking for anime that I just wanted to make fun of. And I sure found a lot to make fun of. There really is no short supply of old anime to just point and gawk at. But what surprised me was finding out that there was new anime that was just as stupid, if not stupider, than the anime that was released in the 80s and 90s. And one such anime was Master of Martial Arts, a 5-episode OVA series that, quite frankly, might very well be one of the dumbest, stupidest, worst anime I have ever seen.
Attention passengers, we've sealed the cabin doors, which means we're ready to take off and should be airborne shortly.
And think about the company that entails.
Something's happened to Azuma-san!
Bo has a laser cannon!
Ah, my teeth! The dentist will charge me a fortune for this!
But what is Master of Martial Arts, you may ask? Well, as I said, it's a 2008 anime OVA series that got a manga adaptation somewhere around the exact same time of its initial release, and it was animated by 2 different studios, or at least it had production ties with 2 different studios. Studio Arms and a studio that now goes by Signpost, I believe. Studio Signpost is basically a subsidiary of a larger animation studio. They were behind some anime that you might have seen if you were really heavy into the fan sub anime scene back in the early 2000s, and that includes Butt Attack Punisher Girl. And its sequel, Butt Attack Punisher Girl R. The only other bit of behind-the-scenes production that's worth noting about Master of Martial Arts is that the character designer also worked on the Bowen series. And if you know what the Bowen series is, then you're not going to be surprised what you're going to find in Master of Martial Arts. But what is the series about? Well, it's about a high school girl who accidentally comes across a girl fight and gets suckered into a tournament where the winner of the tournament gets a really, really bad looking CGI crystal heart that can grant any wish.
Not sure if it's true, but somewhere in the world there's said to be this gem called the martial heart. If you find it, it can grant whatever wish you make. That is, if you're a girl.
And that's about it. I know it seems like I'm really skimping out on the plot details, but trust me, there's almost no plot to speak of whatsoever in the first 4 episodes of this 5-episode OVA series. Yeah, the plot is really paper thin, and it's just there to create a scenario where girls in costumes fight each other.
Everyone here loves me and only me! Got it? I'm the only one they cheer for! I'm the only one they even notice!
Their personality never stretches further than what their costumes show, like the battle stewardess.
Hello there, passenger. As a guest aboard this flight, you are required to obey the stewardess.
Or the Hard Knocks teacher.
This is my style of fighting. Ready for another lesson? I bet you wish you'd paid more attention in class now.
That's right, but I'm a fast learner.
Or the shy priestess that also happens to have a bottomless stomach.
So who's Miko Kazuki?
That's me. I should have said so earlier.
Wait, Miko's another name for priestess, right?
Yeah, it's just a coincidence.
Or any of the other half-dozen girls that magically poof into the plot only to disappear once their ass is beat.
I know you're just trying to hide your jealousy. Because deep down inside, you know nobody would ever waste their time on a smelly skank like you!
I literally had to write down the main character's name, Aya, because there's no chance for me to remember it. She is completely boring and has no personality whatsoever. There's almost no real structure to her character. She's just good at martial arts because her mother taught her martial arts, and that's the extent of her character.
Your mother's a hand-to-hand combat specialist and you never told me? Okay, that's totally something I should have known. Why didn't I know about that? Was I just supposed to figure it out by looking at her?
And these costume battles in the anime really are just a setup to get the characters in compromising positions. I have never seen so many fights basically boil down to the characters getting in the buff. It'd be tawdry if it wasn't so funny and forced how it all plays out. Like, it's not special for doing this. We've all seen plenty of anime that basically have girls' clothes rip off during a fight, but I don't think I've ever seen an anime like Master of Martial Arts where not only was that the entire hook of the series, but it is completely and utterly shameless while doing it. Like, normally there is at least an attempt to try to excuse this utter disregard for physics, but not here, boys, not here. You can tell the anime knows exactly what it's doing by the second episode when it features a full-on minute-long shower scene for no good reason. So it's a cheesy fan service show. What's so special about that? Anime is full of them. Well, the thing about that is that Master of Martial Arts is a special kind of fan service show in many different ways. There's this weird underlying sense that the anime kind of hates itself for existing, or at the very least, it really hates its audience, which is made all the more apparent by the last episode. But we'll get to that. For instance, in that exact same episode with that minute-long shower scene, Aya, the main character, is late to school and she is chastised by the school's PE coach, and he basically tries to extort her.
Of course, I could let you off suspension and give you an alternate punishment, like running 100 laps in your tiny track shorts and tight gym shirt while I watch.
And the anime points out that this guy is a creeper, and rightfully so.
Aya, you have the best luck. Miss Suma saved you from certain doom at the clutches of Coach McCreepy.
But at the exact same time, how sincere is this chastisement if that same anime also featured a minute-long shower scene with that exact same character? It's almost as if this anime wants to point two fingers, one at this in-universe character and one at us. It's like, oh, this guy is a pervert, this guy is a predator, shame on him. But not you, the audience, who just watched that character shower. You're in the clear. Although, considering how dumb this anime really is, I don't think that's intentional. I don't want to give this anime too much credit.
I don't want to fight against you.
Be careful!
But you're right, and I can't afford to lose this fight either.
It's too bad it has to be this way. I really like you, but I can't let my feelings get in the way of this.
Yeah, Master of Martial Arts is the kind of anime where every single line in the script is the new dumbest thing you have ever heard. Without fail, the script just gets dumber.
Show me how stupid and pathetic you are. Because that's exactly the reason why you're never gonna have any friends. And you know it.
And dumber.
Attention all passengers, please return to your seats and prepare yourselves for landing. Remember, please fasten your seatbelts as we'll be arriving soon.
And yet the interesting thing is that all these lines are dumb for different reasons. There's the kind of dumb that's just, well, that's dumb to say in the first place.
I still can't believe it! For the rest of my life, today will be known as Making Friends Day!
Then there's the kind of dumb that's there for the sake of the plot.
Daddy is watching over you, so don't embarrass yourself, okay?
I know, don't worry.
That's right! I forgot. I met one of your teachers at the grocery store today, Miss Suma.
You met Miss Suma?
There's also dumb lines in relation to character moments, like the teacher that doesn't want to fight her student Aya, but also wants to dress up for the fight because otherwise it wouldn't be fun.
I really didn't want to fight you, Aya. You're one of my favorite girls. I can't fight you just looking like a teacher. Where would be the fun in that?
By now, I think you could tell that this is a dumb fan service show, and dumb fan service shows really are a dime a dozen. So, specifically, what makes this anime worthy of the title of being the worst anime of all time? Or at least in the conversation for that title? Well, a big contributing factor is the fact that this anime doesn't do anything right. Sure, it's dumb. Sure, it's stupid. Sure, the plot is paper thin. Sure, it makes no sense whatsoever. But with an anime like this, you're only looking at 2, maybe 3 things it needs to do right. Like character design, or animation, or, for the lack of a better term, titillation. And it can't even get these things right. First of all, these characters are pretty stock, even in terms of appearance. There's nothing special or flashy about them whatsoever. And if we're supposed to be aroused by these character designs, then they really need to be workshopped a bit more. Even when the characters are in the buff, they don't look appealing whatsoever. Bodies are these weird, distorted, not at all appealing shapes. They're drawn very weirdly, colors are off. It's amateur hour through and through, and the animation is just as bad. Even the opening animation looks really choppy and underwhelming, and that's where the majority of all the money spent on anime is spent on. An anime like this lives and dies on its presentation, obviously. And its presentation is some of the worst I've seen ever. Not only do the character designs look boring, and not only does the animation look cheap as all hell, even the music is annoying and grating to listen to.
Yeah, she must have been on her way home from school, I guess. I was picking up our dinner when I bumped into her while she was checking out a bento box that was marked 30% off.
At the end of the day, I can't think of one thing this anime did well, or even passable. And then the last episode happens.
She's become completely evil. Could this have really been her true nature this entire time?
It has to be said that Master of Martial Arts features one of the worst, one of the most baffling, one of the most mean-spirited endings to an anime I have ever seen, nor has anyone else has seen for that matter, at least what I've read. And far be it for me to spoil things for those of you who are curious, because there is no feeling that matches the feeling you get after watching the entirety of Master of Martial Arts from beginning to end. But for the sake of this episode, I will go into spoiler territory, and if you don't want to be spoiled by this, if you took everything I just said and wanted to see this anime anyway, well, go with God. So, the ending of Master of Martial Arts. Where to begin? Well, how about the fact that all the losers of the tournament have been turned into mindless slaves that are going to be auctioned off to the highest bidder?
Every single one of their hopes and dreams shattered. All of that just because they lost to you.
And how about the fact that all of Aya's friends actually secretly hate her and have been planning their secret revenge on her for her family's sins since the very beginning of all of this?
We wanted to give you the gift of experiencing the heartless creation of cruelty that your parents dreamed up. And when it's all over, you will be responsible for your sins as well as the sins of your parents.
And it just kinda snowballs from there.
You look like a dying frog!
At a certain point, you just have to wonder, Was this anime made on a dare? I just can't find any logical reason why this anime turned out the way it did. The whole revenge angle, the whole lying angle, the whole mystery angle makes absolutely no sense, comes completely out of nowhere, and goes completely against the lighthearted, sexy tones that the show was going for up until now. I've been on the record for coining the term final act syndrome, where an otherwise lighthearted anime suddenly turns dour and dramatic only in the last act of the anime. And while you could call this final act syndrome, I don't think that's a strong enough sentiment. This is beyond final act syndrome. This is almost like it's trying to sabotage the entire meta series. This goes so far into hateful territory that it somehow circles right back to black comedy. When I saw this ending for the first time, I was howling with laughter. It felt like a 2.5 hour long joke on me. And to this day, 10 years later, I have still yet to find an anime that has reached this level of not giving a shit.
Or maybe not. It looks like the crystal is not yet complete after all.
In a lot of people's eyes, the ending really cements the anime's foundation for being the worst anime of all time, but for me, I can't really agree with that sentiment. I mean, it's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible anime. It is probably one of the worst anime I've ever seen, but is it really the worst anime of all time? I just don't feel comfortable calling it that. The title of worst anime of all time needs to belong to an anime that, you know, you take nothing away from it, you feel like you utterly wasted your time, you are either left really, really bored or really, really miserable. And Master of Martial Hearts, I didn't leave with either of that. I left with utter bafflement. I was left utterly stupefied by that ending. From where it began to where it ended, it was a roller coaster of what in the world is going to happen right now? What am I even watching? Holy crap, is this real? I had that feeling going through my head from frame 1 to the very end 10 years ago, and watching it again for this review, I still have that feeling. So while people can call it the worst anime of all time, and I wouldn't necessarily have a strong argument against it, for me personally, it's much too rare to die but too strange to live. It exists in this weird bubble where its badness is unique and unto itself, and therefore it makes it interesting. Not the good kind of interesting, granted, but interesting nonetheless.
All you have to do is pass this test and all of your dreams will come true. He used to say this to lure the girls into fighting. He forgot to tell them that they'd be sold off as slaves if they lost.
I'd only recommend watching Master of Martial Hearts if you want to see an anime completely shit the bed from beginning to end. It is a perfect arc of what in the hell am I watching, what is happening, oh my god, where is this going, and oh my god, I'm speaking in tongues. That is the plot progression for me and the viewer, I feel. Well, this has certainly been an experience for me, and a cathartic one at that. I mean, thinking about an anime for 10 years just waiting to say your piece on it, how could it not be cathartic? But talking about an unsuccessful, borderline reprehensible fan service show has got me wondering, what does a successful fan service show look like? Till next time.